Hello, what is going on, guys? I am NumNexus, bringing you here a very much needed discussion video. I always sit down, I always talk about this with my buddies, and I figured, hey, why not make it into a video? Because I always talk about this all the time, every stream, every just discussion. You know, it's gonna be a discussion video, so it's not gonna be like the normal discussion video where it's scripted and it's broken up to bits and pieces. No, there's sections, of course, but I don't script, so I just bring it from the heart. You already know I bring it from the heart. So of course, if you're enjoying, make sure to give the video a thumbs up. Definitely make sure to slap a like, subscribe if you already haven't for more Sun and Moon competitive content, analysis, discussion, all of that. And by all means, if you are enjoying, like I said again, no, what am I talking about? Just kind of give me your thoughts in the comments down below on whom you think is deemed the best starter, competitively, of course, not design-wise. Of course, just competitively, and who you think is the best starter of the three: Final Evolution, Decidueye, Incineroar, and Primarina. I wrote a huge notepad. Like if only you guys could actually see the notepad. It is ridiculous. Like, I analyzed it, I noted it's not a script. I just sat down and noted, and we're gonna sit down and talk about the points I wanted to be making, what exactly deems a good starter. And good points, I guess, point into that is, of course, stats, number one, viability, move pool, and of course weaknesses and resistances and stuff like that. So which contrasts in with stats, contrasts in with the ability. So we're gonna kind of go down bit by bit, go down on all the starters. So it's maybe somewhat of a lengthy video because it's a discussion kind of type video. So let's get into it. Straight up, Decidueye, the first starter of the three. Obviously, of course, there goes grass, fire, water. We're gonna look at him, and he seems to be the fan favorite of the three. Everybody and their mama chose Rowlet, so it seems to be the fan favorite of the three. He has, I guess, well-rounded stats. I mean, it's unfortunate that the 70s can't be 80s. If they all went up by 10 points, you'd be surprised how drastic the change would be. But he has 78 HP, 107 in physical attack, being his highest stat. He has 75 in physical defense, 100 in both special attack and defense, and then of course 70 in speed, seeming though that he's just well accepted to be the fastest of the three. If you look at the other three, 60 and 60, he seems to definitely be the fastest of the three. So shout out to my guy right there. He's definitely making waves, he's definitely making splashes. Typing overall, grass, ghost, it's not that bad. It's definitely a lot better than grass fly. I can give you that. Like, I'm actually really glad that he's not grass flying. Like, I'm very happy that he's not. Personally, for me, design wise, he's a pretty cool design. It made it for me. I wasn't nuts about Rowlet. I'm gonna be straight. If I get hate for it, I'm sorry, I'm just voicing an opinion, but I wasn't nuts about Rowlet, and I definitely was not nuts about Dartrey. What the hell is that? But Decidueye is cool as shit. He's cool ass design, a badass. And I love it, that cool, chill, archery type, archery, whatever it's called, the bow shit. But, he's cool, he's definitely cool. He's got a cool hidden ability as well, where it makes it to where it doesn't make contact with the move, so he can hit Leaf Blade like a Ferrothorn and not take Iron Barb's damage. So that's definitely cool. His physical moves don't make contact. That's definitely Ghost-like. It's a cool little spirit too. He's based off the Stilt Owl, where it's actually extinct, and that's why he's a ghost type. So I'm just kind of tossing in some fun facts in there. Fun fact, that's why he's a ghost type, because the owl that he's based off of is extinct in Hawaiian native culture. So, good paying homage, Game Freak. Good stuff to that. But now kind of getting more into it, his weaknesses from his typing, which is honestly a lot better than Newbie Grass Flying. He has 5 weaknesses, being Ice, Fire, Flying, Dark, and Ghost, and then 4 resistances, being Electric, Ground, Water, and Grass. So those resistances are pretty good. Obviously, of course, he's gonna be resisting himself. All the starters right now, I can say, resist their own main typing: grass, fire, and water. They resist that. But the ghost typing is weak too. A little funny, right? But ghost beats both. We all know this. Ghost typing offensively is good. Not much resists ghost. Only normal is immune to it, and dark resists it. Otherwise, ghost kind of goes to town. If I'm forgetting something, oh well, whoop-de-doo. But ghost goes to town. Offensively, it's a great typing. So he should be hitting decently hard. I mean, he has 107 physical attack and 100 special attack. So honestly, overall, he can be a very good mix attacker. He can be very good just physically offensive and very good, especially offensive. He has dual setup. Like I said. He gets access to defog, a good way to remove hazards and screens. Fun fact, a lot of people don't know that, but he gets rid of both light screen and reflect this way. A lot of people really don't know that. It's crazy. He has access to haze, which if you don't know what that does, it eliminates setup. So if someone is at +6 swords dance and you go for haze, they're back to 0, neutral. So honestly, a pretty good move competitively. It's very slept on. It's not used as much as you'd think. It's very good on stopping. I know Tentacruel and Milotic sometimes can do that in order to completely block out and get rid of that setup. More Tentacruel than anything. As well as access to, well, he gets initiative, dual setup being nasty plot and swords dance, so takes advantage of both of his attack and special attack being quite high. He gets access to 2 forms of recovery, Roost and Synth, so really good for him. And he gets access to Toxic, which I think almost every Pokemon gets that. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. I think like almost everything gets it. I think that was the whole gimmick behind Toxic. He also gets initiative to priority, Sucker Punch, as well as initiative, like I said, with U-turn, and his very good signature move, Spirit Chuck, which locks them in. So if there is something that is annoying towards your team, you can lock it in, and then you get free access to switching out. You can U-turn on it if it's something that you can't kill if you want to go with the Decidueye, and swap out into something that can kill it, because they're guaranteed to stay in, so they will stay in. You kind of get that little initiative, and then it's your choice then if you want to swap it again, if you want to maybe U-turn if someone you came out to is an initiative user as well. Tapu Koko, Xurkitree could Volt switch out, maybe Scizor U-turn out, and you know, play the mind games there, play the whole games of the minds essentially. So he has access to a lot of good moves. Like his move pool, honestly, by far might be the best between the 3 of them overall. You know, like he has a very good access to that. He gets good access to Leaf Blade, good access to Energy Ball. You know, 2 base 90 moves on the physical and special side. You know, definitely as well. It's nice. Maybe I kind of wish he had a better priority move now that they nerf Sucker Punch, and you can just kind of spam setup on Sucker Punch until they run out of PP. It's all mind games Sucker Punch, you know what I mean? It's all mind games Sucker Punch. He doesn't seem to learn any other priority moves outside of Sucker Punch. That might be his only move. He actually gets access to Low Sweep. So, Jesus, if you are dealing with some pesky steel types that you aren't confident enough in killing, he also gets access to Steel Wing, so it's a fairy. But I honestly would just recommend just going for the, you know, and then Workup, of course, which Workup actually might be, you know, pretty good. Workup is for some reason seen as a joke setup move. I don't know why, because no one really runs it. And it would be pretty cool to turn a Decidueye to take advantage of both special attack and the physical attack being 2 very close, well-rounded stats that are similar to each other, only 7 points off. So expect that as well for those flying types. So look at that, man. I mean, Decidueye might win the whole move pool war here. Kind of going out into Incineroar here. Fire Dark type. He is obviously, of course, the last final evolution of Litten, of course. And he has 95 HP, 115 physical attack, 90 in both defense stats of defense and special defense, 80 in special attack, and 60 in speed. So, like I said, the other 2 are much slower. Not much slower, they're just slower than Decidueye. But I guess they contrast in terms of being bulkier. And I say this because you probably might be being like, whoa, Nexus, wait a minute. He only has 90 in both. Decidueye has 100. Yes, that's true, but look at Decidueye's physical defense, and one of the most common dark type moves, Knockoff, which Decidueye is extremely weak to, and that's one of its lowest stats. Yeah, that's going to be something that Decidueye is not going to be appreciating. And then in terms of Incineroar, he has the more natural bulk, I guess, if you want to say. He definitely has a lot more resistances than Decidueye, number 1, which we're going to get into. And then number 2, he has an HP. Now, when you hear people say natural bulk, it's the HP factor. The more HP they have, the more natural bulk they'll obtain. They also kind of need somewhat subpar defenses, if not decent, and he definitely has that, being 90 in both and 90 in HP. He's definitely naturally bulky. He's decently like bulky, you know? He resists a lot too, so he's definitely decently bulky, but here's why a lot of people tend to overshadow his bulkiness, you know, the natural bulkiness, you could say, with good defenses. They're decent, they're almost 100, everything's almost 100, it's decent. Here's why, it's because he's weak to a lot of very common things. Let's get into that now. Being the fire dark type, he is weak to water, rock, ground, and fighting. Now, all of those types you find very commonly. Those are very common types all across the board. You will see them everywhere. Rock types, maybe not so much, but ground types, yes. Fighting types, yes. And water types, yes. Fighting and ground, two very offensive typings. Rock, of course, a very common entry hazard, and then Water, again, a very common typing. Shit, most of the Pokemon we have, I would like to say, we have a lot of Water types. We have a lot of Water types, so you will always see them, and they're good too. So it's like, that's why his resistances are overshadowed, because he is weak to all of these common typings. His resistances, of course, he is resistant to Dark, Fire, Ghost, Grass, Ice, and Steel. Now think about some of those typings, think about some of the most common. You see Steel, of course. You also see Dark, of course, and Ghost is sometimes there, sometimes not. We just don't have enough, and most of them, people just kind of tend to run the most common ones, like Gengar. Mimikyu's been kind of up in there as well. But mainly Gengar has always commonly been the most used Ghost type for a long time. That's why it's huge that he lost Levitate. And Dark types, of course, well, Knockoff is running everywhere. So take that into consideration. Take that definitely into consideration. And then, of course, you don't see much Fire types. Like, they're not apparent. You don't see much of those. Those are Grass types. That's why a lot of people are happy that Tapu Bulu will be a legendary Grass type, because we don't see much of them. You know, there's Mega Venusaur, Ferrothorn, sometimes Breloom. So I don't see much of them. And now this way, I guess this is a little introduction to, hey, Grass types, you definitely can be more potent now. And then, of course, Ice types, you don't see them much. Mamoswine, Kyurem Black, Weavile. It's the first three I could think of on the top of my head, so you don't see much of them as well, of course. So it's like, all these resistances are nice, sure, but it's like, his weaknesses are more of the more common typings, you know, they're more common typings, you'll see them more often, and those are the ones he's going to struggle to defeat, especially bulky water types, bulky ground types. All of those things are going to be something that's going to be an issue for him to deal with. But he hits hard, he has 115 physical attack, and they gave this boy access to Swords Dance, which I know of. Yep, right there. I just didn't want to seem crazy. He also gets Taunt, which is nice. It's always good to stall break with Taunt. It always is, because this way you can kill off stall, because they can't recover. They can't try to get residual damage off on you. All they can do is attack. You know, and he gets a good way to stall break as well, because he gets the chipping moves, Toxic and Willow. Two very good chipping moves. They chip damage, consistently wearing them down, and it's very good. It's very good. I think it's Crunch and Darkest Lariat. I mean, yeah, basically, one of them is ignoring stat changes. The other one is 20% chance to lower the target defense stat by 1. So if somebody who's hitting this hard, who's lowering defense chance, who has that 1 in 4, what is that, 1 in 5 chance of actually lowering your defense is 20%. That's wow. It's definitely good odds right there. Same with Dark Pulse on the special side. Good odds. Special attack is not that bad. It's 80 versus 115. So, I mean, 25-point difference, but 25-point difference is actually quite significant. So maybe always run it physically offensive, but he gets Nasty Plot as well, which I'm not crazy. Yes, he does. So you can actually run a special offensive. Again, another Pokemon that is good, mixed the offensive. Gets both dual setup, access to Earthquake, so he kills off those rock types quite predominantly that are going to be, you know, beating him up. He gets a lot of fire moves, but move pool wise, everything seems pretty limited. I mean, with Decidueye, well, it may have also seemed pretty limited as well. It's like all of these moves that he really can benefit most on. When Incineroar is it's just, I guess, what's the word for it? It's not that it's limited, but it is limited. It's more along that it's like, you can change it up. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, a lot of fire moves, you could change up which one you want to use. A lot of dark moves, you could change up which one you want to use. Nobody runs Outrage on a Pokemon that isn't a dragon type. Like, I don't know, Arcanine and Venusaur will learn it, but no one does that. Unless they just started playing Pokemon, no one does that. And then, yeah, like Shadow Claw, maybe he gets Leech Life as well. So I guess I tried to give it some type of, I guess, way of trying to give exposure to being a little more of a wide move pool. Otherwise, he's kind of limited to mainly fire and dark moves, some fighting, Earthquake. So it seems like, I guess, he can actually really be shut down by a bulky water type, which is going to have to be an issue. So you're just going to have to use that bulk that you have on a bulky water type, like an Almola, and set up on its face and murder it. Or at least attempt, because he doesn't care about stat changes. So kind of get it more a little bit going down. He does get work up. I feel like all of them get work up. 2 for 2 so far. Throat Chop is pretty cool. Try not to get too off topic here, but you know what I mean. He seems like he has the highest physical attacks out of the 3, obviously, and that's kind of in his Pokedex description where he hits like a brutal truck. He just doesn't give a shit about anything. He just goes in. And I mean, like I said, his move pool is okay. I mean, it's all right, but I wish he maybe would have gotten maybe like Thunder Punch is what it is. You know, maybe it's not too late, I guess, to hope in for Thunder Punch for those bulky waters. Maybe it's not too late, but we're gonna have to find out, because with Decidueye, it actually can handle some of its weaknesses, because like I said, Decidueye's weaknesses were like Ice, Fire, Flying, Dark, and Ghost. And you know, Dark, it can hit with its Grass Stab. Flying, it can hit with its Ghost Stab. Fire, it can hit with its Ghost Stab. Ice, it can hit with both stabs. And Ghost, it can hit with its Ghost Stab. So it's like, all of its weaknesses it can somewhat handle. Incineroar, it can get shut down by bulky waters and bulky grounds. Especially, you know, like kind of stuff like that. Ground types, like I said again. Rock types, yeah, you can shred those with, you know, Darkest Lariat. And fighting types, well, it sucks because one of his best fire move is Flare Blitz, and you're almost always gonna be running Flare Blitz if you're doing the offensive set for that good fire stab rather than Fire Fang, because it is a significant power drop from what, like 120 to 65, a significant power drop. So you're always gonna want to run Flare Blitz. You're doing damage to yourself, and then if you get to roll but you don't kill, you get murdered, and hazards as well coming in, wearing you down. It gets worn down very quickly is what I'm trying to say. Rather than the bulk, it's overshadowed because it gets worn down very quickly. I'm sick, so please bear with my voice. And then the last one, of course, Primarina getting into that. I'm gonna say she because she looks more feminine, but I mean it can be a he too. You know, we don't judge here. We definitely don't judge here. She, on the other hand, she is pretty cool. She has stats, looking at them, I don't know why I have it 52. She has 80 HP, 74 in both attack and defense, 126 in special attack, 116 in special defense, and then 60 in speed. So overall, she has some of the highest stats compared to the rest of them. She has a very high HP stat, or I would say very high, but it's good. 80 HP is actually good for HP. It's like really good, if anything. Better than 78, not better than 95, you know. Sure, that the 2 points don't really, I guess for me, I like anything at 80 minimum. She has the fairy typing, which is gonna make her more naturally bulkier than the other two. She has a very high special defense. She has a well-rounded HP stat, and not to mention that fairy type, which is gonna help her resist almost everything. It's gonna be very, very good. For some reason, Game Freak wanted to make fairy types resist so many things. Like, it's crazy. We have here, though, her weaknesses. For the water fairy, we have grass, electric, and poison. 3 weaknesses, whereas Incineroar has 4 and Decidueye has 5. Not to mention as well, resistance. She resists a hell of amount of types. She resists bug, ice, fire, dark, fighting, and water. So, water and fighting, 2 very common typings that you will see that destroy Incineroar. But Decidueye is also resistant and immune to them, so shout out to Decidueye. But to mention, she is resistant to those, as well as bug types are going to be on the come up now because they got a huge buff this generation. And I say this because we got a lot of good bug types like Gliscopod, and like the Ultra Beast, Pheromosa, and Buzzwall. Not to mention Leech Life got a huge buff from 20 to 80, and yeah, like they just got better this generation. Like last generation, 6th generation, it was Dark types that got that huge buff. Same with fairies being introduced, being so good, you know, and ghost types as well, since Steel doesn't resist it no longer. It ended up now being the case as, well, Dark was more potent than Ghost because Dark got that buff. Dark shreds Ghost, Dark resists Ghost, you know what I mean. And it's like, she resists all of this, as well as Dark type, which is a very good offensive typing, especially from the buff they got last generation. Now having that incredible buffed move Knockoff, which gets the item drop boost, and if you're a stab Pokemon using it like Bisharp or Weavile, it's going to get that stab boost as well. And then if it's super effective, you're going to get that super effective boost as well. And if you're holding an item like Life Orb, it's going to get that Life Orb boost as well. All these boosts. And it's like she resists it. She laughs at it, if anything. She also gets access to Scald, something that, you know, the other two don't. And Scald is one of the best moves in the game. And it always has a chance to burn. People don't even go for Scald because it's super effective. People go for it for the burn. Like, people will Scald like a Venusaur for a burn. You know, it sounds stupid to Scald a Mega Venusaur, does it not? I mean, to go for a water move at a Mega Venusaur, does it not? But it's the fact that Scald has a chance to burn, and that's why people do it, you know? To get that burn. And she learns that. she gets access to priority as well. It may not be the best, but it's something, you know, Aqua Jet. She gets access to Dazzle. She gets Energy Ball as well, which is going to be nice. Encore, so she can really, I guess, you know, kind of take on the stalling monsters. One kind of Encore like a Skarmory into Rocks or some stuff like that. Or Encore a Skarmory into like Defog or something like that. Or Encore a Ferrothorn into Leafeseed or something like that. And get a free Bulu switch in and shred that bitch. You know what I mean? Or a free anybody switch in and shred it. You know what I mean? Or someone who beats Ferrothorn. You know what I mean? And it's like she gets access as well to, they give it the vocal moves just because her hidden ability Liquid Voice, which I think is pretty cool. Unfortunately, they didn't give Incineroar no love with the cool hidden ability, a newer one. They just kind of gave him Intimidate because it looks intimidating, but it would have been cool. It would have been cool. But yeah, like I said, she gets all of this off. Ice Beam, of course, Psychic to be able to take out those poison types, which are weak to, she's weak to poison. So she can be able to take out those poison types. So now she has a way to kill Mega Venusaur. Because, you know, on paper, it sounds like it's always difficult for Water Fairies to take out Mega Venusaur. I can speak of this from experience because Azumarill is my mascot, Azumarill and Pelipper, two mascots. And Azumarill struggles a lot on killing Mega Venusaur because its stab moves shut down, and anything it learns is kind of shut down. So it's very, very, very annoying for it, you know, if anything. And she gets access to Psychic, and Mega Venusaur is very bulky. You know, he's always been one of the fattest mons in the meta. And the fact that she can be able to have some type of access to knock it out, you know, is going to be great. It's going to be really great. She gets also, I think, like I said, most of the mons get Toxic. She gets Shadow Ball. I guess they tried, I guess, to make it the move pool a little more different rather than just kind of correlating around its typing. And like Incineroar was mainly correlated around its typing, with a very few exceptions to some moves like Leech Life and Earthquake. But when you see Incineroar, it seems like you learn Earthquake, you know what I mean? And though Primarina, it's like, I guess they try because they gave her Energy Ball and Shadow Ball and Psychic, and that's really it. So I mean, I guess they tried. This was Acrobatics. Interesting enough. I would have never seen the thing learning Acrobatics, but at the same time, Popplio you can see it, but Primarina you can't, so it makes sense, you know? It's, you can kind of go down more in here too. She gets Amnesia. Kind of going more deep into it. She gets, oh wow, Hydro Cannon, no one's doing that. She gets Misty Terrain, so I guess it's kind of cool. As well, she'll get Sparking Aria, her signature move, removes burn. It'd be cool if it got an added power boost if you use it on somebody that was already burned. That'd be pretty cool, but I mean, I guess its whole point is to get rid of the burn, not to kill somebody with the burn, so it makes sense. And then of course, Work Up. So all of them get Work Up, it's pretty cool. And what I like about Primarina the most is its typing. You know, the typing is really going to be something that it definitely wins. All right, let's talk about that now since we talked about all three of them in a deep analysis way. Typing wise, Primarina definitely wins. It has more resistances. It resists 6 typings, and so does Incineroar, but the typings that Primarina resists are better, number one, and because she resists water, which is nice, and ice as well, which is nice, and she also resists dark. Well, he also does too, but she's also immune to dragon. You know, when you kind of look at that, people are like, oh, Incineroar also has 6 resistances, but you have to look at Incineroar's immunities. What is he immune to? Only Psychic, you know? So in terms of immunity wars, yeah, Primarina wins. It's immune to dragon, you know, and then come up with a second place with Decidueye, immune to normal and fighting, having 2 immunities. And then of course Incineroar is going to be at a last place there with typing because of the only 1 psychic immunity. So if you want to go with the typing wars, yes, for this war, since we are separating into sections, this war for typings, Primarina is definitely going to win. She's got it in the bag with Water Fairy. Next up with Decidueye, immune to normal and fighting, and then of course Incineroar, immune to Psychic, and just kind of the resistances as well. You know, you're better resisting ground and water than you are resisting like ghost and grass and ice and steel. Like these resistances are far better. And then number 2, I guess when you want to look at it now in terms of power, that's probably the whole thing that you guys want to know. Before we get into that, I'm going to talk about now, I guess move pool wise, I think Decidueye definitely has it in the bag. So 1 point for Primarina, 1 point for Decidueye, because Decidueye definitely has it in the bag here. He just has the better move pool. You know, he has ways of removing hazards, ways of, you know, kind of wearing down stall mons really good, those fat mons, ways of setting up both ways, you know, Nasty Plot and Storage Dance. You know, having access to Roost, 2 reliable recoveries, Roost and Synth. The other 2 don't have reliable recoveries. Primarina has Aqua Ring, And Incineroar has Leech Life, and you want to rely to recover by also doing damage. It's interesting. It's interesting. So definitely with move pool wise, Decidueye wins that. It also has initiative, something that Primarina does not. So yeah, Primarina has absolutely no initiative at all. You know, I think definitely in number 2, the Primarina. I'm sorry about that, because Primarina has ways of killing off its weaknesses, to where Incineroar just has to kind of rely on. Yes, what is it? Rely on Darkest Lariat consistently all the time. And it's like he'll be doing a lot more damage to himself. I guess you want to look at it that way with Flare Blitz. So, I mean, you could chunk through them better, but when you look at it, more reliable, more safe, yeah, definitely Primarina and then Incineroar. So, unfortunately, Incineroar just looks like he's lacking. I'm sorry, buddy. You feel like he's lacking. And then, of course, as well, with the final verdict of it, with power. Again, these are all my opinions, but the final verdict with power. I did calcs, and I did calcs based upon facing up against a standard Clefable set. And I did their strongest move with their highest stat. So like special attack with Primarina, you know, obviously I brought it down to torrent range as well, +6, since, yeah, they get work up, so they can all go +6. I was considering how can I make Primarina go +6, should I just make it +6 to be fair? It gets work up, thankfully, so it gets a way to set up, so I made +6. And of course, the other 2 get Swords Dance, so you can kind of put that 2 to 2 there. His highest stat is physical attack. His highest stat is physical attack. Her highest stat is physical or special attack. I did all the math, and we have right here Decidueye doing 295 to 348% to this Clefable, and this would be Overgrow boosted Life Orb, what it would be. Then Incineroar doing 414 to 488% to this standard Clefable set. That's ridiculous. And then of course Primarina doing 349 to 411%. So when it comes to dishing out power, Decidueye is max 348, is Primarina's minimum 349. Unfortunately, Decidueye is not hitting the hardest. He is not. He just doesn't seem like he's not, you know? So in terms of power, Incineroar definitely has that. So they now all have 1 point. They now all have 1 point now. Where Incineroar does the most damage, Decidueye has the most move pool, and Primarina has the best typing. Now here comes the last verdict to whom overall, within meta-wise, is best. We can kind of look at that, you know? Whom overall. Because it just seems like we're gonna have to figure this out. Because now this is the last verdict. They all have 1 point, so whoever gets this is the best starter, and we're just gonna have to look into it. Decidueye shafted by knockoff. Like, I can't even begin to explain that. It is shafted by knockoff. Sure, you shouldn't verdict them on based upon a move it being extremely weak to, but when it's knockoff, it kind of matters. There's a Pokemon, Hoopa, regular Hoopa, doesn't get much love, not much usage, because it's shafted by knockoff. It is ×4 weak to knockoff. So it gets destroyed. Paper frail. And it's just like a lot of mons being weak to knockoff, which is such a common move, number 1, because almost a lot of Pokemon can learn it. And when they got that buff, especially coming from dark Pokemon, it's even more scarier, like Bisharp and Weavile, 2 of the scariest knockoff users. Now picture if Tyranitar got knockoff. Let's not talk about that. So Decidueye shafted by knockoff. Good recovery, good move pool, but shafted by knockoff. Incineroar blown away by Stealth Rock. Now this matters. This is very important. This matters because hazards are always key to competitive Pokemon. They're always key to winning. Not always, but mainly they're key to winning. And when you have a Pokemon that's constantly doing damage to himself, whether you want to sub a Life Orb or a Band or a Scarf, constantly doing damage to himself, one of his best fire stabs, Flare Blitz. And you have to keep coming in via matchup wise because of all the weaknesses he has, and he can't really handle his weaknesses too well. When you want to look at that, and you look at that versus, you know, this is a Primarina, he's not handling that too well. Sure, he dishes out the most damage, but he's also dealing damage back to himself and taking a lot of damage due to hazards as well as Flare Blitz. So it's like he's doing a lot to himself, essentially, and he won't live long. Sure, he'll do a lot of damage, sure, he'll pop a few things here and there, but he won't live long, and in terms of battling, you would want to keep him around in certain situations. I guess you can kind of look at a 66, you'd only really use him to kill off certain things and then kind of let him go. in a way, you know, only when you need them best. So there's that. And then Primarina, lots of resistances, you know. She is a fairy typing. Like, with fairy typings run, basically. They run. They're really good. Look at all the Tapus. All the Tapus, you know they're gonna be running this meta, and they're all fairy. So there's that. And you know, it's just like fairy typing is really good. The resistances she has is really good. She has access to Skull, which is just a good move. She has access to all these fairy styles, Moonblast and Dazzling Gleam, which is good. The only thing that sucks is she doesn't really have a reliable setup. There's workup, but I mean, come on now. Come on now. Like the other two, Nasty Plot and Swords Dance set up at +2. Let's be honest. Let's not kid ourselves here. But she does have the best hidden ability, I'd like to say. She really does the best, because that will make it to where all of her sound-based moves become water types, and now like a move like Hyper Voice will be doing a lot of damage. So a base 90 stab is gonna be nice versus a very common base 80 stab, 10-point power. I mean, who's really gonna be using Surf? I mean, Surf can be a thing too, but I can't say who's really gonna be using Surf, because it'll definitely be a thing. She's also a really good dragon killer, and dragons are very threatening and potent to the meta. Last verdict, I'm definitely gonna have to give it to Primarina. 2-1-1, I think Primarina is the best starter. I've been saying it since day one. I think most of you who know me, I know that I've been saying it since day one, and she is just really good. Like, I've had the chance to use her, and she's just really good. You can even look back at a Showdown video where I one-shotted Tapu Koko with Specs Hyper Voice, Liquid Voice. Like, sure, maybe that's not saying much, because Tapu Koko isn't the world's bulkiest. I mean, you want to sit down and look at his stats. We can sit down and look at his stats. 75 special defense, 70 HP, not the world's bulkiest, but it's the fact that she can one-shot something like that. You know, she can one-shot a lot of mons and two-shot a lot of mons. It's just, she's very powerful. She's got power and bulk. Something that Decidueye and Incineroar don't really have a good contrast of. Incineroar has a lot of power, and while his bulk may be good, the fact that he's doing too much damage to himself, that can be whittled down by Hazard, is something that's going to be crippling him. And with Decidueye, you know, a lot of bulk, but it's lacking in power. You know, it does have that 107 attack, but it's like, compared to the other two, it definitely doesn't hit harder. You know, it definitely, we saw the calcs, it definitely doesn't hit harder. And I guess grass typing in terms of offensive maybe isn't the best. Ghost typing definitely is, but that grass typing could be holding him back now with, I guess, this flying. I guess they buffed some flyings. I guess they didn't really nerfed, I should say. So it was a good way to introduce Decidueye when Talonflame definitely caught the bad end of the stick. But definitely, I would have to say Primarina, because Primarina is a good contrast of that. If you can look at it, 80 and 116. Good contrasted bulk. Sure, that physical defense may be poor, but it's a fairy typing, you know, so it will have that chance to live some of them based off rolls. It'll live them pretty well, because the fairy typing resists most of those physically offensive mons like Dark and Fighting, and Dragon is completely immune. So another new introduction to Bug, it resists. So she also takes knockoff, I guess, really good. I honestly think, in my own personal opinion, that Primarina is definitely the best. Sure, choose to be all your own. I definitely think Primarina is that. So that's my little discussion with that. So of course, if you guys enjoyed, make sure to give the video a thumbs up, subscribe. I know the video is kind of lengthy, but I did say in the beginning it would be pretty lengthy. It's the discussion typed video. I'm probably going to be doing a video somewhat like this, hopefully not as long, but somewhat like this, for the Ultra Beasts, probably going out somewhere this week. Stay tuned for that, but you let me know in the comments down below who you think is the best starter of the three. And with that being said though, guys, I'm gonna get out of here. Thank you for watching. I am NumNexus. Goodbye.